All right, I want to welcome on my next guest. We've got recurring guests. We got Aditi Kinkhabwala from NFL Network and backup host of Good Morning Football. Aditi, how's everything going for you?
That might be pushing the title a little bit, just in the interest of accuracy. I am filling in. In fact, this is the very first time that I've filled in studio in New York City, my hometown. This is where I was born, was New York City. Of course, I don't have the usual beautiful backdrop. Here we are in a hotel room, but oh well.
Was it like a last minute thing, or did you kind of know for some time you were filling in?
No, actually, it was last minute. I got a call, I think at the end of last week or this
Oh,
weekend.
cool.
Yeah.
How early do you have to get up? I'm always curious how early they get up for that.
I woke up so we go live at 7 a.m., but you have to be
Okay.
in the studio by 6:15 and you have a 5:30 a.m. production call. So I woke up at 4:15. I worked out in this very hotel room because the gym is closed and because I like to work out first thing in the morning, get the blood flowing,
Yeah.
endorphins, all of that. Worked out, showered, got on the production call while putting on makeup, getting dressed, doing hair, all of that. Walked over to the studio. It's a few blocks that way. And then we went at it. Drank a lot of coffee during the show.
Wow.
More
Who,
coffee than I usually drink.
which of the people on set today, or for like the on air people, were the last ones there this morning? Anybody running late, or anybody there pretty much on time?
I don't know because they keep us all
Yeah.
separate, so I
Oh,
don't actually
really?
know who was lit last.
Oh,
I
oh,
pretty much saw Kyle and Nate at the same time, and
oh, cool.
Tom I might have seen sooner, but
Yeah,
that's just because we were far apart. Social
that's awesome.
distancing, there's this
Yeah,
pandemic going on,
yeah,
Jack.
yeah. And I know you told me last week you were covering some pro days. What was that like?
Awesome. Okay, so for your listeners that don't know, pro days are the workouts on campuses where NFL hopefuls run through all sorts of the tests that they generally have at the combine, like bench and vertical and 40, obviously. And then they also do position drills. And the position drills are cool because the coaches or scouts that are there often are the ones that are running them and looking for very particular things. Some coaches get really into it. Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel, I've seen them, hold the pads and do that whole spiel. And the reason that this is so big is that a year ago, in fact, I remember it was March 8th. I was at Auburn, and that was basically the last pro day that I was at, and maybe the last of the pro days. It was pretty much that week that they were shut down, and everything had been virtual. Now, of course, this year the combine was canceled, so these pro days have taken on even more importance. And for me, it was the first time that I got to stand on a football field and actually have an in-person conversation with any coach or scout or GM or assistant GM or anybody because all season long we've been separated.
Yeah.
So it was really, really, really tremendous. And I was at Georgia and Auburn last week. I'll
Okay.
be at Ohio State on Monday.
Any names we should keep our eyes on for April's draft?
So I really, really liked edge rusher Aziz Ojolari from
Okay.
Georgia.
Oh,
He
that's his last name. I was talking to Blair Walsh, and he goes, "They have this great edge rusher named Aziz," and I literally typed in Aziz, Georgia, and I got the guy from Parks and Rec. I'm like, "That's not him. That's it." Okay,
Ojolari,
Ojulari. I was saying it's a Blair. I'll tell.
Ojulari. And just so everybody knows, you didn't prep me on this. I didn't know we were going there, but I did spell it.
All right.
You know what? Just great kid. He's only 20 years old. He was elected a team captain when he was a freshman. When I asked Kirby Smart about that, he said that it was just the way that he works. He wasn't lobbying for the position. It was just his teammates really responding to him. He's really long, great wingspan, big hands, really fluid hips, good speed for a guy his size. He made a very dynamic, athletic, one-handed catch right in front of me. I just, felt like a really, really smart kid who is not super tall, but all the measurables otherwise were good. And I see him as a 3-4 outside linebacker. He said that he could play anywhere. He could play 4-3 end or 3-4 linebacker, but I see him as a 3-4 outside linebacker.
What's it like being at at a socially distanced pro day? Is it kind of all in a certain amount of hours? Is everybody there early? What's it like?
No, it's just, you're in your masks and you're
Yeah,
doing your best to not huddle too closely, and you
yeah,
have to have a net proof of a negative COVID test, and obviously your temperature is checked and all of
yeah.
those things,
Oh,
but
cool.
you're in a mask the whole time.
Is there any
In
guys you're
general,
excited?
we are constantly in masks anyway,
Oh,
at least
yeah,
in this neck of the woods.
yeah. Are there any guys you're looking forward to checking out when you visit Ohio State?
Well, Justin Fields, right?
Yeah, that's the easy answer. I mean, like,
That is the easy answer, and I'm really sorry. But you know what? You're kind of really putting me on the spot here
yeah.
because I have to be honest, sort of one step at a time here. So I went from Georgia and then to Auburn, and then I got ready for my Monday news hits, and then I prepared for my Thursday Good Morning Football, and now I'm thinking about my Friday Good Morning Football. And when I am done with that, I will turn to Ohio State.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not as
fair.
young
That's
as I
fair.
used to be, Zach, so I try not to keep 582
Yeah,
different things at the top of my
yeah,
brain.
makes sense. And, and then so
You're
you
asking me about some obscure, I don't
yeah
know, fifth round safety
yeah
that may or may not be drafted, or some mid-round
yeah
cornerback, and
yeah.
I don't have a full scouting report just yet. Can you call me back on
I
Monday?
will. I will, because Washington takes anybody who's got a Buckeyes on their college roster. I kind of want to know in advance who they're taking this year. So we'll see how it is. Because they just got Curtis Samuel,
But it's a
Terry
new
McLaurin.
regime. Let's not forget that. Martin
Yeah,
Mayhew, Ron
he's doing a
Rivera,
great job.
new organization, new people in charge.
What do you think of the moves they've made so far this offseason with Fitzpatrick, William Jackson, and Curtis Samuel?
So I'm totally biased, but I love Fitzmagic. I totally believe in Fitzmagic. What is better than a guy getting better the older he gets? I mean, is this the richest contract he's ever had in his life? Or maybe his second
I'm
richest
not sure.
contract?
I'm not
He's
sure.
just, you know what? He's so much fun. And he's a guy that works so hard. And a year ago, you saw him get emotional, sort of thinking, is this the end? Am I facing the end? He's a guy that you want in the room. You know, you want him as a leader, whether he is your starter or not, because you know that he's a good guy and you know he's going to be helping everybody that he possibly can. And
And
it's
of course,
Fitzmagic. And he
yeah,
might be borrowing somebody's clothes at some point. I mean, him wearing Deshaun Jackson's
yeah,
clothes. Is that one of your favorite moments from like
yeah.
the last 5 years of the NFL?
That play he had last year against the Raiders, I thought was the play of the year.
Right.
He literally said, I didn't know if he made the catch. And I'm like, perfect. Perfect. It was perfect. They were holding the back of his face. It was incredible. It was like a Saturday game. It was electric. And then I know you covered William Jackson. Have you met his pet pig,
I have not met his pet pig.
Annabelle? Annabelle. He's not bringing Annabelle to DC. Is very disappointed to hear that in the press conference. But you
Really?
gotta,
What is the reason that he is not bringing Annabelle?
despite us. I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe there's not enough room. I mean, is there
Yeah.
enough farmland? Is there a good
In
place for
in
Annabelle to live?
in DC, I think they could find a two-bedroom pretty easy. You got a nice contract.
He may
But
not, you know, he may not have a landlord or a condo company that's really into that, though. You have to remember there are no pet rules. There are no dog
I
rules.
know
There must be no pig rules.
Ashburn and probably anything Ashburn, you can find it. Somebody can find a sitter for game. And I
Maybe.
wanted to, because when somebody asked him on the
You know
press
what? I have
conference,
some friends there. I'll call. I'll see
all
if
right,
anybody in the Washington organization can help a man out.
I had so many questions about the pig during the press conference. Somebody asked him two ahead of me, and I was like, damn, I decided to think of something on the fly. I was like, I asked him about like, who are you looking for to play in the NFC East? But I had like six pig questions. I was like, all right, one, is she coming to games? Because it would be electric. Two, can they
But here's
recreate?
the thing, just because somebody asks one pig question doesn't mean you can't ask a pig follow-up question. I mean, sometimes the pig takes 6 questions.
He said no, so that kind of shut down all my questions because all my questions were kind of like relying on
But
the
there's a
pig
why
to be,
not? And there's
yeah,
a, do you think she could be joining you later? Or
yeah,
who's she going to stay
yeah.
with then? And what else? I mean, there's a lot you could have done with that.
I
You
want the
know, not
pig.
a friendly piece of,
Yeah,
big
yeah.
sister, if that's okay.
No, yeah, of course. No, because I was like, if we could recreate the hogs with Annabelle,
Oh,
put them on the
well,
Jumbotron, new mascot would be absolutely electric. Because
and that would have been a tremendous idea. The next time you
yeah,
talk to him, you are going to have to propose
yeah.
it.
No, yeah, it was awesome. And then I know since you cover the Steelers heavily, were you surprised Juju came back?
Yes.
Uh,
If you want more,
I mean,
if you want more than that.
it,
So, JuJu Smith-Schuster was looking for perhaps wide receiver one money out on the market, and there was not wide receiver one money to be had. And then, if there are wide receiver two offers out there, I think it makes a lot of sense
yeah,
since it's a 1 year kind of bridge deal. Show me again what you
yeah,
can do. There's more money waiting a year from now when hopefully the cap expands
yeah,
and TV deals seem closer,
Yeah.
or the money from those deals
Yeah.
that have been negotiated seem closer. Who else than to go back to the guy that you already have chemistry with, that you already have rapport with, that you can already sort of be a security blanket for, in a place that you're very, very comfortable? There was a lot of talk like, why wouldn't you go to Kansas City and play with Patrick Mahomes? Well, because there are a lot of other options there. And are you really, and then you have to build all of that with Patrick Mahomes, and there's a whole new offense to learn. And if you're really only there for 5 months anyway, why not go to where you're comfortable? And he's got, a great following, or a great feeling for the city of Pittsburgh. I was surprised on the other end, however, that the Steelers brought him back, because they have tons and tons and tons and tons and tons. Did I say tons? Because I really mean tons of needs. They need a new running back. They need to completely rebuild their offensive line. They lost their great edge rusher who plays opposite TJ Watt in Bud Dupree. They lost their unbelievably physical slot corner, Mike Hilton, who was their best blitzer. They lost Tyson Alualu, who was their tough run stuffing nose tackle. There are a lot of pieces that need to be replaced and filled on the Steelers team, and they have 3 really, really good young receivers in Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, and James Washington, who all have home run potential, who all are kind of wide receiver 1As, just like JuJu. And from everything I was told, the organization was ready to throw out the competition in training camp. Okay, one of you win this job. One of you become wide receiver 1. So it was nice to bring JuJu back. There's familiarity with JuJu. JuJu is a very good teammate. He loves the game of football. He's a very nice kid. But it wasn't necessarily, when you talk about a team that's unbelievably cash-strapped, and a team that is very, very good at maneuvering and juggling cap numbers, they gave him $8 million, and they could have potentially used that $8 million in a different position. Of course, knowing they'd have to juggle the cap number, because JuJu's cap number is very small, but still, $8 million is $8 million. It could have been used perhaps in another way.
Did you see any situation or any scenario where he landed in Baltimore?
I mean, I know that was talked about a fair amount. I actually talked to a member of the organization a couple days before he went to the Steelers, and it was like, no, we're not, he's not, coming to Baltimore. But maybe at the time the price was very high and Baltimore wasn't paying that. I don't know. I couldn't say. But again, if there isn't security out there, if there isn't a big deal, if you're looking to a 1-year deal, I think sometimes going where everybody knows you and where you know everybody and you know the lay of the land and you're not having to prove yourself and get acclimated to something new, it's just smarter to stick with what you know.
I wonder if they played the Cheers theme song when he walked back into the facility, because everybody knows his name. And then, you surprised they brought Big Ben back? I know there was maybe some rumors he'd hang it up.
No, that was like very awkward and weird, frankly. He had said from the very beginning that he was going to come back, that he wanted to come back, that he wasn't interested in retiring. And so it was more the Steelers being a little bit publicly non-committal in what they were saying. That was a bit odd, but he gave some money back to the organization. He obviously worked with them to bring down what was a prohibitive cap number, and then he returned some cash. He said, okay, I'll give you $5 million back on the money that, my contract says I am owed in salary. If that helps you, bring someone else. So I guess that $5 million helped bring JuJu back.
Do you see any scenario where they take a quarterback in the first round?
No.
Interesting. Okay. And then flipping over to Cleveland, I know there were some rumors yesterday, or it wasn't a rumor, Jadeveon Clowney worked out for the team, went home. Do you see that as a potential fit, or do you think that now you don't see it?
I would not advise that. We're not sure what his knee is like. I've been told that it's not necessarily going to pass muster. This is a guy that over the course of the last few years has really faced a lot of questions about how much he loves the game of football. The Browns are already taking a flyer, if you will, on Takk McKinley, who is another edge rusher who is a bit disappointing. So I think they're better off if they want to bring in another edge rusher. This is a deep draft for edge rushers. And I think that that's a smarter way to go.
And then on the other thing I wanted to bring up with you was Joe Burrow is obviously coming back from a torn ACL and some other ligament damage. Do you expect to see him as soon as the doctors clear him, or do you think they're going to wait it out?
No, I think that when he's ready to play, he's going to play. I think
Really?
the Bills have been spending. Well, why would you not? I don't understand. You signed him to play him. If he's
Yeah,
ready and he's cleared, why wouldn't he play?
that's fair. That's fair. Do
I
you
mean,
like what
he's your
do you like?
franchise quarterback. He needs to get better. He needs reps. You're spending a lot of money in free agency. You're building a team to play with Joe Burrow. You're not building a team to play with Andy Dalton right now. That's why you sent Andy Dalton on his way. So if he is medically healthy and he's medically cleared to play, I don't know what use it would be to put him on the bench.
Interesting. And then which of these? I know you're not all in on your scouting for the draft. Are there any quarterbacks outside of Trevor Lawrence that stand out to you that you're like, all right, this guy, I like him. I like what he's going to do.
I'm really, really eager to see Justin Fields because I've heard some just incredible, tremendous things about him. There are also a lot of people that feel very strongly about Zach Wilson. His pro day is tomorrow, I believe. Friday is the BYU pro day. Is that right?
Not sure.
I believe his pro day is tomorrow. But Mac Jones is a guy who's really been climbing in a lot of kind of mock drafts or people's minds. And again, I'll go back to last week when I was talking to Kirby Smart, the Georgia coach, and he just said he's so smart. Mac Jones is a smart player. So I'm eager to know more about all of them. But our Bucky Brooks, NFL.com's Bucky Brooks, has said that 4 quarterbacks could legitimately go in the top 10. And I think that's pretty amazing. And if they do, then you're going to see a team like potentially the Patriots make a major move to get up into the top 10.
What did you think of Jamie Newman at the Georgia Pro Day? Because I've been watching some. He didn't play last year.
I
But
didn't see him.
he's my favorite quarterback to go outside the first round this year, based on like watching his highlights and not his poor plays. So I'm seeing everything. I'm very interested to see what he does because I think he could turn some heads, especially I know in the second and third round, the kid from Texas A&M, Kellen Mond, and then Kyle Trask are expected to go. Jamie Newman's definitely an eye I got to keep an eye on. And then I have a question. Do you have any bold predictions for the draft? Do you think any teams might surprise us and jump into the top 5, maybe to grab one of these quarterbacks you think is going to go to the top 10?
I think the Patriots have done so many crazy things this offseason. I mean, we just heard Robert Kraft tell Peter King that he's never put out so much capital and that he used to make fun of teams that spent a lot of money in the offseason, and yet here they are doing all of this. So maybe the Patriots continue the wildness and move up in the draft and jump that high to go get their guy.
And outside of JuJu, were there any moves that kind of caught you by surprise that you really didn't see coming?
I think that sorry, I have another meeting, and so my phone is blowing up right now. Carl Lawson, I think, is a really tremendous edge rusher, and I was surprised that the Bengals let him go to the Jets for basically the same money that they ended up paying Trey Hendrickson. And I think Carl Lawson would have been worth keeping at that price. So, I mean, I guess that's one move. It's so funny. Like, you talk about this so much, but then when you're suddenly put on the spot, it's almost like I wish I had a free agency tracker right here.
Do you think the Ravens are concerned they haven't gotten that number 1 receiver yet?
No.
No? Interesting.
I mean, there's always a draft. They've drafted a lot. I think that they like Hollywood Brown. They have 2 young receivers from last year's draft, James Prochet and Devin Duvernay, that they certainly haven't given up on, that they believe they see a lot of potential in. I don't think that they're going to force something. It helps, obviously. They want to, but there are other ways to improve their passing game than just bring in a Kenny Golladay.
Interesting. And then which of the first-year coaches do you expect to kind of blow up, or do you think is going to have the best rookie year?
Oh, gosh. I still think that there are so many questions, but I will say this, just having spoken to him, I really like Robert Saleh's energy. I think he's got a real infectiousness to him. I think that players will play hard for him, coaches will coach hard for him, and I'd like to see what happens there in New Jersey with him.
Interesting. Yeah, and then one last question: do you have any bold predictions for this upcoming season? Any kind of takeaways you can say? I told you in April, or I told you in March.
Oh gosh, the Browns will make the playoffs again. I mean, I don't know. You know what? Again, it's like I'm telling you, Zach. It feels as if the season is still so far away, which is sort of what I say to fans who get all riled up about free agency. And you're just like, it's March. You have no idea what your roster is going to look like 1 month from now after the draft. You have no idea what your roster will look like a few months from now at the start of training camp. And you sure as heck don't know what it'll look like in September. So it still feels a bit away. And sorry that I'm not helping right there.
Okay. And one Browns question I was going to want your opinion on. I remember after a couple of weeks ago, I think it was Diana Rossini who was talking about we're going to have, she said the cut week was going to be like something we'd never seen before. And I was looking up and down all the rosters in the NFL, maybe guys that are kind of coming up that you probably aren't going to get extended, or guys on high salary numbers that you think would make sense for the teams to kind of either move on from or trade from or restructure. And one of the guys I noticed that I'm like, there's no way this guy stays, is David Njoku, and he did. Were you surprised by that they didn't move him?
No, I think that they like him. I don't know why. And if you don't have a good trade partner, then what are you going to do? So they like his talent. They like what he can do. And this Browns offense hasn't even scratched the surface of everything it wants to do. I mean, just look at Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I know that Kevin Stefanski and Alex Van Pelt, the offensive coordinator, would like to get both of them on the field at the same time. But when you have no OTAs and no mandatory minicamp, and even training camp has all these restrictions, and by the middle of the season, you're practically never practicing because of COVID protocol issues. I mean, when can you implement things like that? So I think we'll see a lot more out of that offense too.
All right, cool. Well, that's really all the questions I really have for you. How can people find you on social media, keep up with you, and also check out Good Morning Football on Friday?
Please, yes, and it's at Kinkhabwala at Twitter. So thank you so much, Zach. It's always a pleasure, and I appreciate your patience on this one.
Absolutely. Appreciate love having you on.